Hello everyone and welcome to this week's Focus Friday vlog. I'm your host Dan Mickle from Soul Performance Academy, and you can reach Soul Performance Academy at soulperformanceacademy.com, and you can reach me at danmickle.com and across all social media at 717 Soul. Focus Friday is a weekly vlog that is based on helping start conversations in the coaching and educational spaces. And this week we are going to look at feedback and feed forward. Feed forward might be a new concept for some of you, so we will hit on that last. But I want to talk about the overall concept of feedback. And full disclosure, this is an area where I am personally working harder at. I feel like I can do a much better job of feedback. So this is one of the key areas that I'm focusing on growing over this next year and next couple of seasons. One of the things that we have to understand right away is that using feedback is a different skill than accepting feedback. We focus a lot on accepting feedback, how we train our athletes or our students on how to receive the feedback that we're giving them, how to take it in and how to comprehend it and how to, use it in the brain. But one of the things that we then fall short on is we don't actually train how to use the feedback. We work so hard on them receiving it, but then how do we put it into action? I think that's a huge step that we miss, and for me, that's the area that I have to work on. I feel like I've gotten very good at giving feedback and getting my team to accept the feedback, but where I'm falling short is how are they actually using the feedback. And one of the things that I notice the most, and I believe it happens in most gyms and probably most classrooms, are a student or an athlete has a skill or does a skill and you give them feedback. But then there is this huge time gap until they can actually reuse it or use the feedback and retry the skill. What happens is typically we end up sending them to the end of the line, or we go around the classroom and wait to call on them again, and there's a big time gap between the moment that we gave them the feedback and they took the feedback and they actually use it. And as we know, the attention span and things can cause some chaos then with those students or those athletes. So one of the things I think we need to try is get them using the feedback right away. So for example, pardon me, if I am having a player work on a specific drill, maybe a passing or a serving skill, and I give them feedback, hey, this is what I need you to change, or let's try working on this. Instead of having them go to the end of the line, have them hop right back on and do the rep right that moment. Or if you're in the classroom, you call a student and maybe they get it wrong and you give them feedback on what they can do, instead of waiting to call them again right away. Let them try and use the feedback, because one, it's going to show you whether or not they understood and comprehended the feedback that you gave them. Two, to let you know that are they even capable of doing the feedback or what you asked. And three, it also lets you know whether or not your feedback is working. So there's a lot of great reasons on why we should give that feedback and use it right away. So that last part that I talked about is also very crucial. It gives the coaching staff or the educators a chance to observe right away whether their feedback is helping. Maybe your cues are wrong, and maybe the student or player doesn't understand it, or maybe you're just not being clear. Or sometimes, and it happens, maybe we're just wrong on our feedback. But by having the player or the student take those reps or try the action again right away instead of waiting, we'll get instant feedback on whether or not our feedback works. So we kind of get that feedback loop that is constantly going on. But I think that's probably where the biggest disconnect for feedback is. We kind of cop out at times and say, well, we want you to soak the information in. We want you to soak the feedback in and then make adjustments. But our feedback should be pointed and quick enough that they can make those adjustments on the fly. And if they're not, then we can kind of go back and review it a little bit and give more in-depth analysis and maybe an action plan to help them. But in the moment, at that time, we need to give that quick feedback, those quick cues, and get them practicing it right away. The second half that I wanted to talk about was feed forward, and that may be new to some of you. Our typical feedback loop is, and again, I'll use the athletic example, is a player tries a skill, and maybe they don't perform it to the best of their ability or what we're looking for, and we give them the feedback, and then we ask them to try it again. Now, if, we refer to the first part of this video, we want them to try it right away. So let's just say that happens. They try it right away, and then we give them more feedback. I think we're missing an opportunity where we can use feed forward. And what I mean by that is when we have a player or a student getting ready to do a skill or a task, instead of waiting for them to do it and then giving the feedback on what they need corrected, give them feed forward and tell them what you want before they start it. Again, for example, you're working on a skill, and instead of saying, okay, well, this is what you did right, this is what you did wrong, this is what I would change, start off by saying, okay, Sally, this is what I want you to do, and remember, let's keep that elbow high and let's swing fast through it. Or keep your chin up, keep your eyes focused on the hoop, and follow through on your shot. Instead of waiting for them to do it and giving corrective feedback, let's give them feed forward and tell them what they want and give them the cues before they try it to help build the confidence in the player and let them continue on. So I think those are two of the biggest areas that we really need to look at. The timing in how we use feedback, and how we not only give them feedback as quick as possible when they do the action, but how quickly we can get them back into working on it and getting the chance to improve their skill and not wait for a long period of time till they get to try it again. And then the other side is the feed forward piece, is can we give them those cues and more information before they even try the skill to kind of boost their confidence and help them see more clear what they need to do and continue to give more and more and more reps. So that's what I wanted to focus on this Friday, is the feedback and feed forward. What are some of your cues and some of the things that you do to help your players not just accept feedback, but use feedback? Accepting it does us no good if they don't actually put it into practice and start to use it. All right, so let's open up this week's discussion with that. How do you help your players use feedback, and have you ever used the concept of feed forward? And if you do, what are some of your basic ways and skills that you do that? So make sure you hit us up in the comments and the chat below. Let's open up this discussion. And again, I would love it if you would subscribe to this channel, share it, like it, rate it, get it out there, and let's get more people involved in these vlogs and a much larger conversation on this piece. And again, you can reach me at danmickle.com and across all social media platforms at RealDanMickle. And we will see you next week for our next Focus Friday.